proposing that here today, on the 21st March 2006, a cold, cloudy Tuesday at 12:25 p.m., as I type myself into my laptop, in my Brixton, in my place in space, in proposing that all phenomena are merely superpositions of an initial inquiry. A drift away from balance, an inquiry requires a secondary condition to undrift it. Thus, inquiry as part of it requires resolve. Having considered the various strands of knowledges alongside my own personal knowledge gained from 36 years of phenomenological and reflective encoding and processing, I would like to propose that intention, movement, sound, vibration, friction, bioorganisms, memory, consciousness, cycles, and forms all clearly demonstrate properties of inquiry and resolve. Maybe I can elucidate this through the consideration of a movement. What is a movement? A movement is time. A movement is consciousness. A movement is the history of emergence, of which the body is a constitute. A movement is the inquiry. Like Krishnamurti would say, let's really go into this. Let's look for insight that may generate resolve. Let's look at another type of movement. Let's take a bodily movement. Let's take a hand reaching out in to the world to perceive it. We can see it as a grasp out into the world, an inquiry. But that hand in grasp cannot stay out in the world. The principle on the law of conservation somehow shows us that there is a tendency towards the conservation of energy. So even in that alone, we have a natural tendency for the grasp to return to its source, to increase its chance of survival as a whole organism to grasp. Therefore, any inquiry must be laconic. An infinite grasp out in the world would lose its grip and become finite, diminishing like a deterministic ghost in the machine through the depletio of its resources. Conservation, therefore, can be seen as a form of resolve, a route to sustaining its grasp. It allows inquiry to return to its origin, and can be seen as an essential part of an inquiry. Just so we are clear, let's press reset. We have a balance point, and an inquiry away from that balance point. For that inquiry to continue, it requires energy. We have established that. One solution is to return to source. So let's have a look around and see what we can find. Wisdom, information, research, and all avenues of knowledge from Western chemistry to Eastern philosophy. In all, different but exactly the same way, acknowledge a phenomena process called loop. So let's bring in loop here. So, let's see if loop plays a role in our super theory, that inquiry and resolve are the fundamental properties of everything. Because if my proposition is true, and that they are the implicate, then they must have enfolded within them the whole of the explicate. It must incorporate every other theory or superposition. So loop is a movement, a process, and the one successful resolve generated by inquiry that permits further inquiry. We can see how inquiry, when generating all superpositions past and present, may have arrived at resolve through trial and error, or or erosive processes. Resolve may have been the best possible action to take. This particular act that resolved the first inquiry, through returning to source alongside the possibility of further inquiry, created a circle or revolution, the first loop, and as a byproduct created the cyclical act of infinity. So, inquiry generated resolve, knowing it to be the best superposition, and then collapsed into that position, creating a channel for all forthcoming inquires to fold into. This process created cyclical infinity, a safe passage, a return to source. So resolve can be seen to offer a form of redemption. A form of redemption for all.
Haunting who here? So, who's haunting who here?
So here we are now discussing two types of infinity: stillness and movement. We also have the laconic energy law, perception-reception, reproduction, social systems, ecosystems, solar systems. Everything shows this property of loop. And here, this theory of inquiry and resolve makes claim to be an a priori and universally fundamental in both property and principle, and therefore, inquiry and resolve must either leave their trace upon loop or to be generators of loop. Iteration, reincarnation, self-similarity, bifurcation, strange attractors are equal to complexity and collapse. Systems of repetition, systems of loop. Chaos theory is the mathematical reinterpretation of the Hindu knowledge of reincarnation, where the final conditions affect the initial conditions of the next loop. This is known as a feedback loop, which is another key process. So what we have now is that the original inquiry, when it returns to its nascent point of origin or source, it brings forth a new condition, acceleration. In this manner, it will keep looping and responding to increasing acceleration, as we have two opposing conditions. This loop process of feedback is also the process of light, which resonates throughout our physical world. If we look at this fundamental force which allows life to exist, we can see it is constructed through the process of a feedback loop between two conditions: magnetism and electricity, which traverse in 90-degree phase space, and where they collide, a new condition emerges: electromagnetism, light, which travels at 186,000 miles per second, delivering a form of omnipresence. So, we have tried to hold a thought that considers all the previous thoughts as one interconnected thought. Now that we are moving, how do we stop? I hereby conclude my first proposal of inquiry and resolve as fundamental properties in the supertheory of everything. You, the viewer, may attempt to challenge my theory without using my theory. That is, without using any form of inquiry or resolve.